So I wanted to get your take on inflation we're currently seeing. I recently had Paul Krugman on, and he said the Fed should raise interest rates, effectively taking its foot off the gas pedal and maybe pumping the brakes a little bit. But he said otherwise inflation isn't a big deal as everyone is making it out. Now, you don't seem to agree.
Right, that's wrong. I mean, first, look, the Federal Reserve is a very difficult job because, as I say, debt is the stimulative. You give a lot of money and you give a lot of buying power to people, and you create a pickup, and that's what we did. They kept it on for a very long time, and they massively stimulated. And now they're going to have to put on the brakes. Will they raise interest rates to a high enough level to compensate for inflation? And when central banks tighten, they create the pinch. And I think that everybody knows you could see what happens to tech stocks. You can see what happens to
So
other
you're
things.
saying this might cause a recession. Is that what you're saying?
Right, that trade-off between inflation and growth has produced a lot more inflation and a lot less growth. So as the Federal Reserve tries to balance that and try to get in the middle, it gets a stagflation in the middle of two difficult situations.
So how do you think, you used the word stagflation, one of my favorite words, how do you think the current economic environment, fear of stagflation and the actual occurrence of stagflation will play out in the midterm elections?
I think it's a very big issue, and it will play out in hurting the Democrats because they'll be perceived as being responsible for it. And it'll be slogans, and, there's going to be very little understanding of the trade-offs and the mechanics. So we will have gone from complaining about the depression that existed as a result of COVID to complaining about the inflation, but they're not realizing that the two things go together because the way you give a lot of money away and you minimize the first problem, but you get the second.